Hi, so my name's Jared. I moved to Stockholm in 2017 last year with my wife. I come from Australia and we've spent some time living in different parts of the world, mainly because at one point or other throughout our history as a couple, we've each had an expiry date on when we're allowed to live in a country. So when my wife ran out of the visa to live in Australia, we moved to the UK. And then when I ran out of my visa to live in the UK, we looked to try and find the next place to live, and we ended up, after spending a bit of time in Australia waiting for my visa to process, back here in Sweden. So coming from Australia, I am most familiar with Australia's property market, which is very free and very open market. In terms of buying an apartment or buying somewhere to live, that's there's a lot of auction stuff. There's a lot of bidding and negotiations. You do have a lot of relationship business with a real estate agent. The rental market in Australia is also very free and very open, and it just really means that you have to be, it's very competitive, but it's also, you can apply for anywhere. So as long as you've got enough money, you can make a higher bid for how much you want to pay in rent, and you just need to be fast to get in quick to get a place. Anyone can rent anywhere, but the rental costs happen to be a little bit crazy. London, UK market is very similar, except you dial all that intensity up a little bit. The systems are the same, the market is the same, it's just that the costs are higher and there's more people trying to get into fewer houses. And then coming to Sweden was a real shock for me because there's a lot more regulation. This whole concept of subletting or a second-hand contract was very interesting, very different, very unique to me, and I couldn't work out how to do it, and I couldn't work out how the hell I could possibly get a first-hand apartment in Stockholm up against someone who's been on the waiting list for like 20 years or 30 years or something. So learning how to navigate that and learning how to get the right information was really difficult. But I've found that having a lot of friends and a lot of support groups in things like Facebook or The Local has really helped to upskill that base of education that I needed. There are a couple of challenges that I found with moving abroad. Some of them are, like I mentioned, the difficulty in the local systems, but other challenges are things like you don't know when you're going to a city in a country that you've never lived before which suburbs are on the good side of town, which suburbs are on the bad side of town. You don't know where the supermarket is. You don't know, is this a place where if I go for a party at 10 o'clock at night, am I going to upset all of my neighbors because it is a children's area? And so it's hard to try to work out some of those more nuanced and smaller details of the city that you're going to move into. It's also hard to work out, is this a building that has been put together recently, or is it old and is going to fall apart, or is it a new build but it was built on the cheap and is it not very good quality either? So it can be really hard and really daunting sometimes, especially when you want to put a commitment to move to somewhere where you can't go and inspect it because it's 2,000 kilometers away or something like that. We were really fortunate coming to Sweden in that we had some friends who could go and inspect the apartment for us, and friends that we trust who have the same values that we do, and so we were able to rely on their feedback to say, yeah, this is a good place to live, yeah, you should go and check this out, or this is a really great landlord. Building that relationship was hard, but it helps. From a renter's point of view and trying to find a place to live, it'd be really great to have first some an understanding of what my criteria are. So I want to live in a place, I'm willing to pay this much money. I want to live this close to public transport. I want a car park or I don't, and things like that. And then it would be good to be able to say, how flexible are you on those things? So I want to pay 10,000 crowns per month, but if you find a great place and it's 11,000 crowns, show me that as well. That kind of the same way that I might build a relationship with a real estate agent. Beyond that, it'd be useful to complement that with sort of other areas. I want an area where I could stay in for 5 years and have some kids and raise a family. Or I want an area that has got local supermarkets nearby. Or I want an area that's got lots of restaurants and pubs. What is the kind of lifestyle that you want? Because that's really what you're talking about when you're finding a place to live. It is a central part to the lifestyle that you want. Do you want to live central to the city, or do you want to live in a house and have a backyard? And I think finding out and a system that is able to understand my needs like that would be really, really useful, and a system that has all the information that I don't have about a city that I haven't come to yet would be really useful to help educate me right then and there and on the spot. My best advice, if you're an expat moving to a country that you've never been to, get on Facebook, get on forums. There's a lot of different countries that have their own version of The Local, which is a great website for Sweden. But also look for whether it's internations or other kinds of communities which have this kind of information. There is a lot of information out there. It's just that on the internet, it's really hard to find the right information. So the time that you spend investigating is definitely going to be well spent. The second thing that I would advise is go as deep as you can with that research, because it can be very easy to hear that, oh, this particular part of town is a really rough suburb. Often what I've found in different parts of the world that I've lived is that that is sometimes true, but that is also sometimes a reputation that is no longer true. So do your work to try and find out if that is still accurate, because you might find that there's a really good and really cheap place to live that is cheap because nobody else wants to live there. And purely because of this reputation that lingers, that is no longer really true. You can find some good bargains in some apparently bad areas because of that. And the other thing that I would advise is learn about the public transport system, because if you can move into a city that is incredibly well connected, like Stockholm is, then you can live a little bit further out of the city than you could in other parts. So don't be afraid to go to that next suburb or 2 or 3 away from the central station, because you might find that you can live further away than you could in another part of the world and still be really, really well connected to the city. I'm still adapting to my new lifestyle in Stockholm. As an Aussie, it's hard to come to terms with the fact that we're in 4 inches of snow today. So it's it's exciting, it's new, but it's just part of the journey. It's part of what I love doing about this and moving all around the world. Training or beer, like going for a run or beer. Can you do both? Okay, beer. I can't do either, but I enjoy snowboarding. I enjoy skiing. Oh, come on! Stockholm. Oh, no, they're both stuck up. Stockholm.